Officer Tatum is advocating for his chosen religion again. He's espousing his unrelenting belief in the system of white supremacy. It's been my opinion that those who partake in this belief ultimately sacrifice their ability to critically think. Officer Tatum has a stance on the shooting of Sonya Massey in her home, and here it is.
All right, so I want to make sure we're clear here. Justification is not, is he justified in the death of this young lady? Justification is the justified use of force. So I don't condone any of his actions before the shooting. I don't think that he's a great officer with great reputation, and I'm not supporting him whatsoever. I'm saying that the use of force when she lunged at the police officers with the pot, the use of deadly force was appropriate and justified in that particular instance.
For context, a belief in the system of white supremacy calls for a belief in the institutions that allows for the perpetuation of the system. One of those institutions is law enforcement or the police. By default, in this belief, the equivalent of a priest would be the actual police officers. Anything they say is held as truth, regardless of what the facts say. We've seen it over and over again throughout the history of the police since the inception of this nation. The modern police were derived from the slave patrols. According to an article found in the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, slave patrols had three main functions. The first function was to chase down, apprehend, and return to their owners runaway slaves. The second, to provide a form of organized terror to deter slave revolts. And third, to maintain a form of discipline for slave workers who were subject to summary justice outside the law. I said all that to say this. There's a narrative that is going around that says the shooting of Sonya Massey was justified because of her actions. Now let's go back to what Officer Tatum believes. He says the use of force when she lunged at the police officer with the pot was appropriate and justified. We'll set that aside for a moment because it's not just Officer Tatum who believes this narrative. I want you to watch Trump when asked about Sonya Massey.
From Illinois, an unarmed black woman was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this.
Did you catch it? After saying he didn't know the exact case, he gave what appeared to be a two-handed gesture that looks like someone would use to indicate throwing water from a bucket or a pot. Looks like even if he wasn't familiar with the exact case, he was privy to the narrative. So where did this narrative come from? This position, at least to my eyes, wasn't apparent on the video. So who started this narrative?
So, is there anything you think we can do for her? All right, I'm not even gonna waste my med stuff then. You want to run down real quick?
Nope, not yet.
All right. House is cleared. She was the only one.
Where's the gun?
No, she had boiling water and came at me with boiling water.
You shot her?
Yeah. She said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came at me with boiling water. That's what all this is. I was standing right here.
It was the police officer who shot Massey. And like I said, in the system, if the priest says it, no matter facts to the contrary, the believers in the system will see it that way. Case in point, as promised, we are back on Officer Tatum's claim of the use of deadly force being justified after Sonya Massey lunged at the officer. Lunged. What an interesting choice of words. Well, lunged has a definition. Let's see if the definition he uses fits the facts of the matter. Lunge in this case wouldn't be the first definition, but more of the second definition. A sudden forward rush or reach. But wait, there's more description from Officer Tatum.
That you're not justified in defending yourself against a person hurling boiling water. I think that's what it's going to end up coming down to.
Yeah, I didn't see a hurling of boiling water.
He did. I sent your staff the video that I did. I think we're sending over now. It's a video that I did where I put it in slow motion and I show the trajectory of the pod and the way the water went out and it hit a table. I mean, it hit like a chair and the floor. And so you can see that the water was hurled and propelled in their direction. And that's when he pulled the trigger and shot her.
So Officer Tatum uses the words hurled and propelled in their direction. Well, hurled has a definition too, as does propelled. Hurl means to throw an object with great force. And propelled means to drive forward or onward by or as if by means of a force that imparts motion. Did we see boiling water hurled or propelled? A follow-up question would be, did we see boiling water hurled or propelled to the point that required deadly force? Because that's what he's saying he saw. Not only that, but it appears he also gets the sequence of events wrong.
It's a video that I did where I put it in slow motion and I show the trajectory of the pod and the way the water went out and it hit a table. I mean, it hit like a chair and the floor. And so you can see that the water was hurled and propelled in their direction. And that's when he pulled the trigger and shot her.
Officer Tatum says that the officer shot after the pot of boiling water was hurled or propelled at the officer. He says you can see the water hit a chair and the floor between Massey and the officer, prompting him in an attempt to, I guess, save himself from great bodily harm and or death to shoot Massey. That's what Officer Tatum says he saw. The facts seen here, broken down frame by frame and with timestamps, seem to contradict what Tatum says he saw.
Grabs the pot with the oven mitts still on her hands, and then, at least with one hand, holds the pot over her head and dumps the water out. The claim is that she was throwing the water or attempting to throw the water at Deputy Grayson. Switching back again to the other deputy's body cam, at 1:20 and 48 seconds, we can see that after Grayson shoots, you can then see what appears to be the steaming water hit the office chair that's at the lower left and on the kitchen floor. And this office chair is between the officers and Sonya Massey.
This breakdown with frames and timestamps says that the water is seen on the floor and the chair after the officer starts shooting. So the question really is how we see things. The police officer who shot Massey says that Massey came at him, which is why he had to shoot her. Officer Tatum, in my view, seeing things through the lens of white supremacy, regurgitates that sentiment in spite of the evidence to the contrary. This is another example of what happens to your brain when it's constantly under the control of a depraved system. It sees what the system says it should see. It's also another example of why we should trust the facts over what people say.